I overheard her saying, "I told him to book fancy restaurant. After dinner tonight, let's sneak out and make him pay the bill." That evening, I still took her to the fancy restaurant. She ordered the most expensive dishes on the menu and slipped away, just as planned. 10 minutes later, they came rushing back, begging to pay for the meal. I thought I was the luckiest man alive when Chloe said yes to my dinner invitation. At least that's what I believed until I accidentally overheard her whispering on the phone. I told that idiot to book a 5-star restaurant. "Tonight we'll eat our fill and sneak out after." Let him pay the bill. You should see his face when he realizes, priceless. For a moment I couldn't breathe. Her voice, sweet, mocking, dripping with cruelty, echoed in my head like a bad joke I wasn't supposed to hear. My chest tightened and a chill ran down my spine. I'd been planning to surprise her with flowers, thinking this night might be special. Instead, I realized I was the punchline of her private comedy show. I stared at my phone, the same device I was just about to use to order that bouquet, and something inside me shifted. Anger burned hot at first, but then it cooled into something far sharper. Clarity. She wanted a show. Fine, I'd give her one she'd never forget. That night I would still take her to that luxury restaurant. I'd smile, I'd play along, I'd let her and her little friend think they were running the game. But what Chloe didn't know was that the restaurant she planned to scam was mine. And before the night was over, she'd learn exactly what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. Most people saw me as the quiet type, polite, reserved, a man who preferred listening over speaking. And that's mostly true. I don't chase drama, and I don't flaunt wealth. My family owns a chain of luxury restaurants across the city, but I've never felt the need to announce it. I live simply, drive an average car, and let people treat me as just another ordinary guy. That's exactly why Chloe intrigued me when we first met. She was confident, radiant, and seemed intelligent enough to see beyond appearances. Or so I thought. She laughed easily, spoke with charm, and carried herself like someone who knew what she wanted from life. I mistook ambition for authenticity. When I asked her out, she said yes without hesitation. Maybe that should have been my first warning. From the start, Chloe was enthusiastic about where we'd eat, what I'd wear, how I should make an impression. I assumed she was just excited. I didn't realize she was planning her next photo dump for Instagram. The irony, of course, is that the very restaurant she wanted to dine at that night, La Maison Verne, wasn't just any high-end spot. It was one of my family's flagship establishments, the crown jewel of our brand. I knew every corner of that place. The staff, the layout, the security system, even the manager, Mr. Davis, a loyal man who'd worked with my father for over 20 years. So when I overheard Chloe's little phone conversation, I didn't explode. I didn't confront her. I simply smiled to myself, because for the first time in my life I had no need to imagine karma. I could design it myself. That evening I called Mr. Davis. He picked up on the first ring, as he always did. "Good evening, sir. Is everything all right?" "Yes, Davis," I said, my voice steady. "But I need your help setting up a situation." There was a pause. "A situation, sir. I'd like to run a small experiment. It involves a dinner reservation tomorrow night. I'll send you the details. Think of it as a test of character. Not mine, but someone else's." Davis chuckled softly. "Understood. Shall I prepare the private security as well?" "Not yet," I said. "But I want the local police informed in advance. Tell them we suspect a potential case of theft of service. I want them nearby, ready but unseen. This must look completely natural." He hesitated for a moment. "Of course, sir. May I ask, what did they do?" "Nothing yet," I replied, glancing at my reflection in the window. "But they will." The next day, I arrived at La Maison Verne earlier than usual, dressed in a dark suit. I walked through the marble lobby like any other customer. The waitstaff greeted me politely, none of them betraying the slightest hint that they knew who I was. Davis met me in the lounge area, clipboard in hand, his expression professional but his eyes gleaming with curiosity. "Everything's ready," he said quietly. "Security's on standby. Police officers are stationed in the parking lot, plain clothes. We've also set up discreet microphones at your table per your request." "Good," I said. "Make sure they're recording from the moment she arrives." He nodded. "You're certain about this, sir?" I smiled faintly. "Davis, Sometimes people need to see the mirror held up to their own reflection. Tonight, that's all I'm doing. When she texted me earlier that day, can't wait for tonight. Don't be late. I could almost hear the false sweetness dripping from each word. I wasn't angry anymore. I was curious. I wanted to see how far she'd go when she thought she was in control. At exactly 7 o'clock, Chloe arrived. Not alone, but with a friend. Her name was Sarah, a mirror image of her in both attitude and arrogance. They stepped into the restaurant like they owned the place, laughing, dressed to be seen. I stood to greet them, pretending surprise. "Oh, you brought a friend." Chloe waved her hand dismissively. "Yeah, I hope you don't mind. Sarah and I haven't had a proper girls' night in ages." "Of course not," I said, smiling. "The more, the merrier." Behind her, I caught Davis's discreet nod, the signal that the cameras and recorders were live. As we took our seats, I watched Chloe's eyes flicker across the menu, lingering on the most expensive dishes. She didn't even bother to ask. She just looked up and said, "Let's get the lobster, the steak, and that bottle of Chateau Margaux 2015. You don't mind, do you?" "Not at all," I replied. "Order whatever makes you happy." Her smile widened, utterly convinced I was the fool she'd been mocking hours earlier. What she didn't know was that every waiter, every sommelier, and even the valet outside knew exactly who I was and what was about to happen. Sarah strutted beside her, the same smug energy radiating from both of them. They looked around the marble hall with the awe of tourists, whispering to each other, probably imagining how many likes their next post would get. "Wow, this place is amazing," Sarah said, sliding into her chair. Chloe grinned. "Of course it is. He's been dying to impress me." I heard her, but I didn't flinch. I poured the wine, smiled, and let the silence work in my favor. Dinner began like a performance. Chloe the star, Sarah the sidekick, and me, the fool with a wallet. They ordered without restraint: lobster tails, filet mignon, foie gras, truffle risotto, and the restaurant's most expensive bottle of wine. Each dish arrived with silver service, candlelight dancing off crystal glasses. Chloe leaned back, crossing her legs, her voice rising just enough for nearby tables to hear her laugh. To her, this was validation, power. To me, it was evidence, she said sweetly between bites. "You really didn't have to go all out like this." "You're spoiling us," she smirked. That same smirk I'd seen when she whispered into her phone the night before. If only she knew how many microphones were catching every word. Across the table, Sarah whispered something under her breath. Chloe laughed, covering her mouth with her napkin. I caught fragments. After dessert, a back door. "Quick!" I almost admired the confidence, almost. "Would you two like dessert?" I asked, feigning innocence. Chloe's eyes lit up. "Of course. What do you recommend?" "Try the gold leaf chocolate souffle," I said, signaling the waiter. "It's the house special." They didn't notice Davis in the corner, subtly checking his watch, the silent countdown to Act 2. As the souffle arrived, Chloe pulled out her phone, snapping photos from every angle, making sure the restaurant's logo appeared clearly in the background. Her caption probably already forming in her mind: "Another 5-star night, Kwan's spoiled luxury life." When the plates were finally cleared, Chloe pushed back her chair and flashed a perfect smile. She cooed, "Sarah and I are just going to the restroom to fix our makeup." They giggled, grabbed their purses, and strutted off toward the hallway. I watched them go, two predators who thought they were prey. The moment they disappeared from view, Davis approached quietly. "They've just slipped past the restroom corridor," he said. "Headed for the service exit." "Let them go," I murmured. "Give them 5 minutes." He nodded and stepped away. I leaned back, letting the soft jazz from the speakers fill the room. My reflection shimmered in the wine glass, calm, steady, unmoved. The staff glanced over occasionally, unsure how someone could look so composed while being abandoned. But this wasn't humiliation. It was documentation. I let 10 full minutes pass, then I nodded to Davis. Time. He lifted his radio and spoke a few quiet words. Outside, 2 plainclothes officers stepped forward from the parking lot shadows, blocking Chloe and Sarah as they reached for their car. What followed would unfold exactly as I had planned, but inside the restaurant, I remained still, fingers tapping the table softly in rhythm with the background music. The waiter approached nervously. "Sir, would you like me to bring the check?" I smiled faintly. "Not yet." I think my guest will be returning shortly. And right on cue, like a scene rehearsed 1,000 times, the glass doors swung open again. They were back. Chloe's hair was disheveled, her face pale. Sarah's voice trembled as she whispered something about the police. Misunderstanding. I didn't rise. I didn't say a word. I simply turned my gaze toward them, calm as a man finishing a meal in peace. The moment they stepped back inside, every head in the restaurant turned. Chloe's lipstick was smudged. Sarah's heels clicked unevenly on the marble floor. Their laughter was gone, replaced by shaky breaths and the sheen of panic. Behind them, 2 uniformed security officers and a police sergeant followed at a measured distance. "Ladies," the officer said firmly, "you're being questioned in connection with an incident of theft of service. You attempted to leave without paying for your meal. That's considered a criminal offense." Chloe's eyes widened. "What? No. We were just stepping out for a minute. I was going to—" "Ma'am," the officer interrupted, "we'll handle explanations later. For now, please return to your table." She stumbled forward, voice cracking. Please tell them it's a mistake. You know I wasn't trying to leave." "I told you earlier tonight," I said quietly. "I wouldn't dream of moving." Recognition flickered in her eyes, and then confusion. "Sir," one of the security staff addressed me respectfully. "Mr. Davis told us you're the—" "Thank you." "Officer," Davis interrupted smoothly, stepping forward. "Allow me to clarify." He turned to face the room, his voice calm but commanding. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Alexander Verne, the owner of La Maison Verne, the establishment where these 2 guests attempted to dine and dash." Gasps rippled through the restaurant. Chloe froze, eyes wide in disbelief. "The owner?" she stammered, her voice barely audible. "You're the owner?" I looked at her, expression unreadable. "You seemed so certain I was just another fool trying to impress you. I thought it would be fun to let you believe it." Her hands trembled. I didn't know." "I swear it was just a joke." Davis placed a folder on the table, the printed bill pristine and heavy with consequence. "Total $1542.80, he read aloud. "Charged under the name of Miss Chloe Moore." The officer stepped closer. "Ma'am, you'll need to settle the balance, or we'll have to proceed with a report. This is your opportunity to resolve it privately." Sarah began crying softly. Chloe's face turned pale, the reality settling like ice. The laughter, the games, the fake confidence, all gone. "Please," she whispered, looking at me again. "Can't you help me?" I rose slowly from my seat, straightened my jacket and looked her directly in the eyes. "Help you?" I said softly. "Chloe, I tried to do that when I asked you out. When I treated you with respect. When I believed you were the kind of woman who valued sincerity. You had your chance." Her lip quivered. "I didn't mean to." "Yes, you did," I cut in. "You meant every word you said on that phone. You planned to humiliate me, to use me, to laugh about it later. But tonight," I gestured to the officers, "you're the punchline." She covered her face with her hands, the weight of shame finally crushing her posture. The dining hall remained silent, all eyes fixed on her. I nodded to Davis. "Make sure they pay for everything they ordered, down to the last crumb. And please, send a copy of the CCTV footage to the local station in case they forget to settle up again." "Yes, sir," he replied. Chloe's voice cracked. "Please, Alex, I don't have enough cash." "Then use your card," I said, "or your pride. Whichever's worth more." For a long, heavy moment, she just stood there, trembling. Then, with shaky hands, she pulled out her credit card and slid it across the table. Sarah followed, her face streaked with tears. As the machine beeped and printed the receipt, I picked up my coat. Before walking away, I turned back one last time. "Consider this a lesson, Chloe," I said quietly. "You wanted a 5-star dinner? Now you've paid for one." Behind those glass walls, Chloe and Sarah were still huddled at the counter, pale and trembling as they signed the $1,500 bill. Cameras flashed from the phones of nearby diners. In the age of social media, there's no such thing as a private scandal. By morning, the damage was already done. The restaurant staff group chat had leaked a few photos. 2 overdressed women in panic, police standing by, receipts on the table. Within hours, 5-star freeloader was trending locally. Someone posted, "Imagine trying to dine and dash from the owner himself." Comments flooded in. "That's what you get for being fake." She used the wrong guy. Can't scam the boss. Sweetheart. Chloe's Instagram, once filled with flawless selfies and wine glasses, went dark. Her last post, captioned, "Dinner with someone special," was now a battlefield of laughing emojis and sarcastic tags. Sarah deleted her account entirely. I didn't comment. I didn't need to. The world had already done that for me. A few days later, Mr. Davis informed me that Chloe had tried calling the restaurant, begging to have the photos taken down. "Tell her it wasn't us," I said. "Tell her it was Karma's PR team. Rumor had it she quit her job soon after. Her so-called influencer friends ghosted her, afraid the scandal might rub off. She moved to another city quietly. No more five-star dinners, no more luxury check-ins. Just silence. As for me, I kept running La Maison Verne the same way, discreet, efficient, elegant. Sometimes when I pass by the same corner table, I still remember that night. The moment she realized who I really was. Not the fool she imagined, but the one holding the script all along.